Have you noticed that young Dexter is always afraid to make eye contact, while older Dexter will constantly be staring no matter the situation? Well, as someone that's reviewed hundreds of different actors, I noticed many more secret differences between the old versus new Dexter cast. And baby girls, I'll be exposing all of them today. Starting off with Dexter Morgan and his two very different smiles. Young Dexter's creepy smile is clearly very different from how C.Hall does his. The eyes are much wider and the lips just curve a lot harder. And a bunch of my TikTok comments argued about whether this is a good thing or if it's the real life version of this emoji. And at first I did actually roast it, but now I'd say this difference is actually good. His smile sucks because it shows how truly different young Dexter is. He's not meant to have this charismatic or charming smile yet, and after years of blending in, finally, when he's actually older, he's able to normalize this smile. It looks like everyone has a different opinion on this, so kind of let me know what you guys think. But one thing that's undebatable is the fact that young Dexter is a lot more awkward and unconfident, which does make sense because he's younger. Take for example how he's scared to make eye contact in intense moments, while as I stated in the intro, Michael has no problem directly looking no matter the situation. Rita could be flirting with him, the stare is there, or she could be crying watching a movie, that stare is still there. That's the real difference. We're gonna bash on this young version a little more, but first, one thing that everyone can agree on is how good Patrick Gibson is at acting out the process of thinking. As you all know, Dexter is a very calculated person that always has something running in his mind. Watch how the older version of him shows this by glancing his eyes constantly. And thankfully, with young Dexter, we also see this exact same thinking behavior over and over and over again. Now guys, really pay attention, we're about to get a little more advanced. Another very big difference is the fact that young Dexter shows a little too much emotion for someone that's not meant to have emotion. Here, when he's arguing with his dad about killing someone, this part where he walks away with his hands up is not what C.Hall's Dexter does. The original Dexter doesn't snap like this. Another great example is when he feels the heartbeat of his victims and gets happy. This over joyful smile is showing that expression, but it's a little too much. If older Dexter was in the same exact position, he'd probably show his happiness like this, with the very subtle tricks like that open mouth. In this level of how much expression is shown, that's the big difference. And if I'm being honest, in the original show, when things do get to the breaking point where Dexter wants to show emotion, if you pay close attention, you can actually see him physically stop himself before he does it. The past version of me shows exactly how in this video, where I rank the acting of the original cast from Dexter, where he'll do something very different. He'll still bring out the sadness, the eyebrows, how his eyes glance around, but then he stops it immediately, almost letting it release, but then instantly fixing his face, knowing that Rita can't see that side of it. So I'd love if Patrick Gibson brought this cool element into this show. But either way, I'm very impressed, man. Good job. And now, before we talk about how terrific young Debra is at copying the original, no, like I'm being serious, she might actually be better than Patrick Gibson's copies because she's so good. But before we do that, let's quickly go through two other characters that just can't act as good as the original. I'm sorry, baby girls. The first one, Miss Laguerta, I'm looking at you. She's acted by 43-year-old Christina Milian, and compared to the original, she has a very, very similar voice.
Prostitute Park? Serious?
Welcome back, Morgan.
And of course, she looks very identical to her. And also, surprisingly, even though we haven't seen much else of her, these head tilts and overall standing behavior is pretty close to the original. So that means, wait, so I can't complain, right? Like everything's good. Of course I can complain. I'm Kosho. Of course I can. I know how to look deep into the details. I get it. You guys probably missed this important fact, but the original Laguerta constantly looked away whenever she was speaking to someone, which is important because it made her conversations much more natural. Like she was truly engaged and looking away just to think of what to say. Unfortunately, this young Laguerta just doesn't do that. And in the same scene, you see why that's such a problem. Watch how her acting kind of gets robotic and stiff as it goes on. Seeing her head in the same position, it kind of makes it look like a bobblehead.
A dead drug user might not be breaking news, but there was still a murder. And Raul Martinez was still someone's.
But next, let's talk about Masuka, because I'm actually pretty impressed by him, especially this one similarity. Watch this specific scene where young Masuka makes his creepy jokes. You see how uncomfortably serious his face gets? This is exactly how the original Masuka also delivers his jokes, and then him snapping out of that seriousness right after it ended, it was perfect.
I had no idea you liked to get down. Hey, you and me, Titty Tuesdays next week.
Half-price lap dances at Stir Crazy.
And not only is the joke delivery good, young Masuka's actor has clearly also already flexed like 100 times that he can replicate the Masuka laugh.
That's it. We're done.
So congratulations, dude. I don't know how you do that, but I gotta stop. The only problem is you're too good looking. Like, I'm being serious. The only flaw is his jawline, his bold black hair, his deep dimples. I literally don't see how this could turn into the original Masuka we know. But maybe I'm rambling and something goes very horribly wrong. We just don't know. But let me stop rambling, sweethearts, because this next actor deserves our full attention. Her name is Molly Brown, and there are 3 secret things she does to perfectly replicate the original Debra Morgan. Firstly, she subscribed to me, and like, obviously whenever you subscribe, you just get hotter, sexier, funnier, like, yeah. So like, make sure you guys subscribe, by the way. But secondly, she has the exact same dead sassy eyes as the original, revealing them by keeping her head still while looking slightly up. And I love how Molly Brown uses this repeatedly throughout the entire show so far, just like Jennifer Carpenter, who also spammed this move to bring out the inner brat behind Debra. And if you guys pay really deep attention, you can also see whenever she gets riled up, her head moves in this weird tweaky way that the original herself also very subtly does.
Slash a movie night at my place instead?
This is such a cool element that I bet so many people miss, but there are some very clear flaws. Ladies and gentlemen, young Debra is clearly a lot more shy, and it really shows when you look at her body language. Watch here how she yells at her family, but her body stays frozen in place, literally using 0 hand movement. And she would do this several times throughout the show, which is very tragic because it's so different from how original Debra Morgan moves, who clearly has no trouble taking up space. And yes, I do understand this might actually be how she's supposed to be played because she's a younger, fragile teenager. But personally, shouldn't bratty teenagers actually have more expression, not less? You guys let me know. My job is kind of just to point this out. Just like I'm about to point out another big flaw. Going back to the first scene, I do like young Debra's ability to pause and really think in the moment because it gives her character more confidence and allows us viewers to feel pulled in by it.
A child was found murdered hanging from a bridge today. So sorry you couldn't go to the beach.
Well,
Once again, the original does just a much better job, even at thinking. Because instead of looking up at one place, she'll actually move her eyes around along with jittering her lips to really show this hard thought process. And I really hope you baby girls are now seeing the difference from like an amazing A-list actor compared to one that's still good, but like, there are some details that really separate the great from good. So I don't want to blame Molly too much. Jennifer Carpenter is just an insanely talented actor.
I can't do a fucking thing about it.
And if you watch my acting review on the original cast of Dexter, you might be surprised where I ranked her compared to the rest because I might have put her above Dexter. I don't know. Anyways, guys, let me know your personal thoughts on these differences I listed today. And here's a full playlist of every show I've reviewed the acting of. So make sure you guys watch that, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. What is that? What is that?